rip
tracks.
the recording or something off, and then on stream you could have like a music or something. Yeah.
So we're gonna try that again.
Should we all start new recordings?
Nope.
Yeah. No?
Yeah, we'll just have 10 minutes of
Nope, don't do it.
silence.
Do not do it.
I'm starting
Okay,
anyway.
Literally, you're starting.
Yeah.
Damn it! All right, fine.
I'm also gonna
Okay,
start.
Everybody
recording
start.
We might as
That
well.
was like 10 minutes
New
of silence.
recording.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair
Alright,
enough.
Recording.
I just figured like if we were all in the same.
Recording
spot.
again.
F5. Oh, they're telling me that we have audio in the Twitch chat,
But no video.
Yes, let's go.
but no video because we're wait. Okay, there we go. All right, everybody, welcome to the Destiny Community Podcast, Firing Range, where we never have any technical difficulties with our audio when streaming live on Twitch. Thank you very much for joining us. We are Firing Range, a podcast to talk about all things Destiny weapons, abilities, loadouts, the sandbox at large, and OBS Studio. Thank you very much for joining us. And as we were getting into, before we had to awkwardly restart our recording session, what has been going on in the community? Oh, right. Okay, last time we recorded, we had Hawkmoon, and we were hyped about it. And Trials was literally right around the corner, so we finally got to get our hands back in the dough in Trials, a game mode that was taken off the table for a fairly long time to correct a couple of bugs and issues. And we're finally back in it. No banter. We're late today, so just no banter at all. We're just diving right into it. Good experience with returning to Trials? Bad experience? Unique experience? Anyone have any thoughts? Someone's got to have a thought. Yeah.
Trials was it was better than I hoped it to be so far. I've actually been having a good amount of fun. I know that might be contrary to maybe a lot of other opinions. But I've been having fun with Trials. I feel like while the things I very much dislike, snipers and third-person peeking, are although still impactful, are far less common and problematic. I think that when you're facing a sniper, it's not like everyone and their mother has a sniper on now. It feels a lot more often like, hey, it's a good sniper. We're gonna have to play around a good sniper. And has a lot of high impact on the match, very high impact, so I think that's fine. Third-person peeking feels less impactful with Stasis around. It still happens. It's still annoying when it happens, but it feels less impactful with Stasis and the different ways with the grenades and abilities to kind of punish them for sitting in third-personing. So, for that reason, I've been having more fun than I thought I would.
Yeah, I would agree. I was kind of worried about how it would feel because we hadn't played it in such a long while. And, like, a lot of people are talking about Stasis. I will agree that when I get killed or frozen by something, I'm not, like, the happiest guy in the world. But usually, I feel like I'm like, okay, maybe I made a mistake. There's a couple times where it's like, okay, that's ridiculous. And I'm sure we can get into talking about when those moments may pop up. But for the most part, I've actually been having fun. Granted, I'm going to check my PvP privilege at the door. I have a lot of PvP hours under my belt. Not an average Joe. I have a whole list of people who are happy to play with me, so I'm not going to just be like, everyone should be enjoying Trials. You know what I mean? My experience is different from Johnny Dayjob, but for me, speaking for me, I have been having fun.
But I mean, I'm closer to Johnny Dayjob than anyone else here.
You are. Yeah.
I do actually, have a normal 9 to 5. I didn't even get to play Trials until like Monday afternoon. And I was worried that because everybody on Twitter was seemingly not having a good time talking about how Stasis was ruining it. And so I went in and I was like, well, we weren't even trying to go flawless. So it was just like, let's just play some Trials. And I actually didn't find my experience was the same as what people were talking about on Twitter. Maybe it was because it was Monday afternoon and a different subset of the population is playing. But, we went flawless and we had a good time. And I said this, like,
Merc did cut out.
I'm on pins and needles.
Another audio.
Merc, Merc, what
Well,
did
to
they
follow
say?
To
What did
follow
they
up with
say,
the
Merc?
thing, me being the sniper 3-peeking.
Oh, he's back.
I imagine it recorded on your end though, so we're good.
Damn it.
That'll be a treat.
I don't know where I got lost at. So
You
yeah,
played.
it'll be a
in-
surprise when the audio recording.
This is like Granddad in the war stories, and he falls asleep. No, Granddad, tell us what happened. When the chopper went down.
We're gonna cut it together like a Tarantino film. There's like backstory and flashbacks and jumping around.
Now, so you found that you didn't have the same experiences you were seeing on Twitter and let's say
Yeah.
Reddit or whatnot. Keep going. You weren't expecting to go
Yeah,
flawless.
it wasn't terrible. Am I just like lagging out constantly here?
Sort of,
Yep.
a little bit, yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Maybe try cutting camera.
Yeah, do you want to put up a picture for your camera and then just go full audio? Actually,
haven't
that
thought-
picture that we have right there, that one of you, like, is, it's like perfect. Oh no, you're back now. Just
It's
yeah.
like borderline narcoleptic. He starts and then just dozes off.
Oh, it goes like that. We'll give it a minute.
My internet's dying. Come back to me. I'm gonna see if I can get this figured out.
That's
on
fine.
This
You-
is-
you
this is
do-
the night
you
of
do
the
stuff.
Fine. We'll glacier dive into my experience.
Oh my god.
Go for it, Cammy.
Which surprisingly, because Glacier Dive is so obviously strong, a lot of teams just throw their entire playbook out the window and just say, we're just going to do this all the way to flawless. And
That's their play.
because they've dedicated so much to just that, everything else about their game is trash. And
Is
they get
bad.
punished by even like PvE players I bring along with me. And we stick to like very, very simple strats. It's just put damage in. When enough
Bait.
damage is in, fly in and clean up.
Sure.
Bait that garbage out, and sure enough, it gets you really far into the card. But this late into Trials lifespan, almost every team you play is good. So I just don't expect to go flawless with the PvE team unless I sink the whole weekend into just like refining team play.
When you say this far into Trials lifespan, you mean like as a whole?
Yeah, as a
Like,
whole,
there's
the
no
Destiny franchise,
surprises,
like,
yeah, 'cause
no
it's
surprises,
been around
everyone
for
knows.
so long, yeah. Even though it was taken away for however many weeks it was,
Yep.
it's not like it's coming back a completely different animal. Like,
It's
yeah,
actually more the same. Than like.
yeah.
ever.
Cool guy. How was your first experience back?
Yeah, so I mean, we played. We got through on Bannerfall. You, me, and Joey.
We did,
The
yeah.
Power of Blessius, you know. Got through with Cam this past weekend. We played. So we talked about it a little bit afterward. Like it's kind of in a weird spot. Like it's almost kind of difficult to do pickup games to try to help people unless they are fully committed as well. I mean, especially with Stasis. Say you're rushing a body. It's a 3v2. Like they'll wipe you with Shatter Dive, right? So you just have to play a little bit different and different strategies for both teams, really. Like a lot of the times what we were doing when we had a body down, we'd get on our body, but we literally couldn't be close because you'll just get stasis. Like just trash is thrown at you and then you're done. And
Mhm.
vice versa. Like when we rushed a body, we had to like almost what's the best word? We had to kinda,
Tactical
like,
rush.
Yeah,
like,
tactical rush around it.
delayed rush.
Yeah, because
I
mean,
wouldn't
in
even
an
say that. It was like an obvious feint. We just fake our first approach and then full commit after.
That's
Because we know it's
fair,
coming.
yeah.
It's their only playbook, like I was saying.
It's different. It's different.
And we will definitely get into a discussion shortly about the current state of ICE in PvP and Trials, because there's a lot of chatter about that fluttering around the community lately. Before we get there, let's talk about Adept Weapons real quick.
Okay.
First, before we get down to the nitty-gritty, you know, one of the big things when Trials had come back was that people thought that maybe there was a little bit missing from the fun factor of the reward, you know, like the show it off factor, you know what I mean? And Bungie decided to reintroduce Adept Weapons, which are kind of a unique extra kick to a standard weapon if you're able to go flawless in Trials. And we've been waiting for these for a while, and we have them back now. We have two as of the recording of today's episode. We have the Summoner Auto Rifle, right? And we got the Astral Horizon Kinetic Shotgun. I'm not going to lead the witnesses here because I definitely have my own feelings on the matter, but how do you all feel so far about the reintroduction of Adept Weapons from Trials. Do we think they've been reintroduced perfectly? Is there room for improvement? Does anyone have any strong feelings one way or the other about Adept Weapons in any way?
I do.
I
Cool
don't
guy.
like him. Strong feeling. Done.
There we go. Cammy, hit me with that feeling, baby.
They do not seem rewarding enough when you factor in the probability of getting them with how long it takes. And they're also sunset. So when you factor all this in, you say, wait, I'm going to be spending this much time to get it. And by the time I get it, it's already expired. All for a mod slot that on mouse and keyboard isn't as impactful as Icarus, with a few fringe scenarios that are more impactful. But then I weigh it again against the probability. It just doesn't seem worth it. Unless you have fun in trials, and that's just icing on the cake. I have fun in trials, and if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't.
Sure. I kind of agree with you. If you have fun in trials, like just playing with your friends in that scenario would kind of be its own reward for people, the very slim group of people out there who just really enjoy playing repeatedly trials all weekend. But for other people, I would agree with you that the amount of time it would take to get an adept weapon for the average player, and then you factor into that you have no control over the weapon roll. The majority of all my adept weapons sitting in my vault right now are very bad. Like, I would not consider using pretty much any of them in endgame level PvP. And I don't, so far, again, also we have 2 adept weapon mods, which you can put on your adept weapons. We have Adept Mag, which gives you a much larger magazine at the cost of handling. And we have Adept Targeting, which is better targeting acquisition at the cost of stability. An interesting idea so far. I don't know if like data mining has revealed what the other future Adept mods are. If they might have. It has. I haven't looked at them. But so far I'm kind of feeling personally underwhelmed. Cool guy, did you also have, you said you would some feelings on them?
Yeah. So when you masterwork them, you get an extra +2 to every stat, right?
Right.
So like, yeah, that's cool, but there's a compound of issues going on here. One, the weapons themselves, we've already seen them. I'm like, yeah, we could get a little extra range on an Astral Horizon. Yeah, you know, maybe you never got a good roll in the first place. It's just another chance to go. When you start adding on, this is why I'm doing it, and you know, this is my advice for players that are playing trials. I mean, this targeting adept mod, the ship has sailed on a lot of the trials weapons. Like, I want to get a good ISOL adept, and I want to put on the targeting mod on that because I don't care about stability. Like, when you take the adept backup mag, like the summoner I have has 40 something rounds. When I put a regular backup mag, it goes to 50. When I put on adept, it goes to 54. But it tanks my handling 15, 20 stat points. So for 4 rounds, it tanks. Like, it's not set up well. But I will say this, like, if you are playing, and even though it is discouraging, all of these mods, I want for Palindrome, the Swarm, and Shadow. That's why I'm doing this. Mainly for Palindrome. And that's going to be coming next season.
Right.
But all you have to do to get these weapons, like all you have to go through to get them, and then like Cam was saying, you know, you're going to miss most of the time. Like, I had full range, so I had rifled barrel, accurized, range masterwork, or small bore. So I pretty much could get the max range you can get, plus it's masterwork to get +2. I got slide and 1-2. Didn't get quick draw, right? So I'm like, do I really want to go back, or can I just use a quick draw one that I had from a previous season? And like he was saying, they're going to get sunset anyway. I do believe that celerity should be locked in on the adept weapons as an internal perk. I don't think it should fall on weapons. But my main thing is I'm getting the mods for Palindrome and Swarm and so on for the next season.
It's fair. You know, the real bitch of the situation is that, like, from Bungie's, like, to play devil's advocate, from Bungie's POV, like, I get it. Like, I'm sure there's more to it than what it would appear at the surface. I mean, like, if they gave people the ability to re-roll, I'm just gonna take it to crazy town. Like, because we're talking about how you get an adapt weapon, it's probably, statistically speaking, not going to be the roll that you're looking for. If there was a way to, like, somehow re-roll your, I don't know, adept weapon or something like that, if they made it too crazy, then people wouldn't be encouraged to repeatedly play trials, I guess. They would probably go in one time, get their perfect adept weapon, and then like tap out forever. So I get it from that POV. They want people to keep coming back to try to get that role that they're going after. But like, I just keep thinking for like the average player who's like, if the average player was like, hey, I want to go get like, I want to go into trials. I'm not really familiar with trials. I don't like PvP too much, but I really want like an adept summoner. Is it worth it? I would probably be like, no, it's not. Like you would really have to only commit for the PV. Like if you don't like PvP, you shouldn't be going into trials anyway. But like, I don't know. It's just there's a real strange thorn in my brain about it, about the level of squeeze that you put into going into trials right now for an adept weapon, and the juice being sort of not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, game 7, dude, on the flawless game, got flawless, the helmet dropped, and like that's another reason I want to play. I'm like, okay, I'm getting some higher level gear, and there it is, a 58 stat, pinnacle drop, sitting right next to a blue that's a 59 stat. Like it's so discouraging, man. It really is. Now they have made really good. Like I love the 3-win deal, or like the bounty to get an app.
Sure, yeah,
right?
yeah.
I love
Good
that.
deal.
Like there are things, but it can still evolve. It can still be a lot better. It just depends on if they want to continue working on it, right? So.
And I look at it like the problem is like, who are these pinnacles for, right? Like the average player who is not particularly good at PvP, this pinnacle's not really for them. They're not going to notice an extra 2 stats on every single stat. They're not going to notice an extra 2 stability, right? Like they're just not. It doesn't make a difference. So if you're telling Johnny Dayjob, hey, we put an adept weapon with you for flawless, well, Johnny Dayjob already can't go flawless at the current point in time because of card-based matchmaking, pitting him up against a sweat stack at 7 wins, right? So he's already like, well, I can't go flawless anyways. This has no like motivation for someone who is not already a hardcore PvP player to jump into trials. And I don't know where this idea has come from that like trials needs more rewards for the people who go flawless over and over and over and over again. No, it doesn't, because those people play trials pretty much no matter what. That's what they do, right? What trials needs is bring people who aren't good at PvP into trials, up the population, get casual players to play. You need a reason, and like the 3-win thing kind of did that, right?
It
but
did, yeah.
It's been 5 years since we had the best trials system we ever had, which was the original one, where you had gold tier bounties and silver tier bounties, and just by playing trials, even if there was no expectation of you going flawless, you would get some good loot. Like we had a great system like 5 years ago, and we moved away from that system, and everything that we've tried has had the same effect, which is that casual players who aren't particularly good, I don't think there's a light at the end of the tunnel for them to go into trials.
Man. I've talked to him.
So it's like,
Yeah, true.
I look at it for me, like I'm not a huge fan of trials in general. I don't really like the game mode. I don't really like the game type. I don't really like the matchmaking. So for me, I look at it and like, am I motivated to go play trials by an adept weapon? And I care a lot about stats, way more than the average person. And I'm still not motivated to go into trials to get an adept summoner. Like I got one and I still sharded it anyways because I was like, I really don't care about that. Right. So, I feel like if it's not motivating me, the person who cares the most about numbers on a stat bar, like what's it going to do for the person who logs, 3 to 4 hours a weekend, and their time that they get to play on the weekend is super, super valuable. You think that an adept weapon is going to make them spend that time playing trials when they could go play Deepstone Crypt, which has some awesome stuff behind it and is just like flat out more enjoyable?
That's a good point. You got something, Drew?
Yeah. I think a big problem with the adept weapons. So I grinded a lot this weekend. I mean, it was for many, if you are celebrating, for me it was Christmas weekend. It was already pretty busy, but I still found some time to grind. And I think we went flawless nearly 20 times this weekend. And a big problem right now, and I know it's a bug, but it's that you're not guaranteed to get the adept weapon out of the flawless chest.
Oh, right.
Which is like, I think on top of everything is really for me, I am someone that is interested in the adept weapons. I'm interested in the adept mods. I've looked into the mods on the database. I am excited about it. Yes, it's not something crazy, and I guess there's problems that I'll get into in a moment about it, but I want it. I still want it, and the shotgun is a very desirable weapon, so I went for it. And I gotta say, even as someone interested, this problem which of course they mentioned is gonna be fixed later in the season. I get it, but this is really, you know, adding up a lot of issues. It really does feel like you have to be supremely insanely lucky. It hurts the fact that you can get a normal astral instead of an adept astral, which is a horrible feeling when you go flawless, right? So I think for even those that are excited about it, like myself, like I mentioned, there's that barrier too. So there's a lot working against these adept weapons right now. As far as the weapons themselves, I like the +2 to every stat. I think that's a nice little something. That's cool. The adept mods I'm very interested in. I like them a lot. I think there's things like I'm looking at here on the database, things like on the astral, for example, like adept range is not something we've seen yet. That is an adept mod, +10 range.
What does it take
That's
away?
pretty interesting to me. Does not say there's a cost.
Really? Okay.
In the database.
In the database.
Right. So
spoiler
maybe there
alert,
will
by
be
the
a
way.
cost.
But
right?
if there is a cost
When
that's
I-
handling, it's essentially nothing. So
Exactly.
I mean, Drew,
Um,
you've seen Wonder Woman 84, right? You can't just get 10 range. Something needs to be taken away.
It's going to be what you care most about too.
What you care most
So,
about.
It's going to take.
Oh, so Drew can, every Xbox Elite controller he ever holds will just immediately get joystick drift.
For me, it would take away shot.
I don't doubt it. When I click the adept targeting mod here, it says it does reflect the change of -20 stability and then +10 aim assist. When I'm looking at the range mod, it just says +10 range. So at this moment, I'm inclined to believe that yes, this is just a nice slap and +10 range on your +10 range on your weapon. And to me, that's really interesting. I think the problem though with a lot of these adept mods for many is, well, it's not Icarus. We don't have a place to put Icarus. Right, and for myself personally, I see that as, okay, I'm willing to take the L on Icarus because I'll have opening shot anyways, which kind of pseudo does what Icarus does, you know, give or take. So I can kind of min-max like that, so it's still interesting to me. But for a lot of people, if it doesn't have Icarus, it's just not worth it. In my humble opinion, has that been kind of blown into, you know, out of proportion a bit? Maybe, but there's no denying the inherent, like, crazy strength of Icarus. And I guess that then opens up the can of worms that I'm sure no one wants to speak of. I know I sure don't. But is it a problem with other mods or is it a problem with Icarus? And that's not one I'm gonna make a video on ever.
That is a big... Why not, Drew?
I'll talk, dude.
That-
Like, Sprint
that
needs
just
help.
We've
not happening.
never had any
All of those need help.
Yep.
I mean,
That is
all-out
just not
dudes
happening.
are videos.
I think if you really want to change things up, the argument could be made that way more weapons need just inherent improved inner accuracy. Not perfect inner accuracy, but
Right.
better.
Just
inner
a little
accuracy,
better,
because
yeah.
Yep.
Right
that's
now, at a high level, like how if you really do care about mobility and you really do care about being airborne, how are you going to pick anything that's not hand cannon shot, right? Or sniper with an Icarus, you know? Because pulse rifles, auto rifles, scout rifles, like you're so reliant on being grounded that if you do want to become airborne, you cannot use those guns. Right? Auto rifles maybe a little bit, but just less so. So it's like, you know, if you really want to shake up that high-end meta, give, you know, scout rifles better inherent inner accuracy and see if people start to use those or give pulse rifles. But until you do something like that, then people who choose to play that playstyle are always going to say Icarus is king, and nerfing Icarus will make those people most upset.
Yep.
But as long as Icarus does something, they're still going to pick it over something like Cool Guy said, like Sprint Grip, right? So
in the back
So-
of my head, I always expected them to do it. I just wasn't sure when, so I made a Warlock build that just says, all right, I get to sacrifice grenade, stab, perfect inner accuracy, take away the Icarus grip, see what happens.
What
And
if
yeah, let's hear.
what if Icarus was taken away as a mod, but the baseline inner accuracy of everything was brought up, but it's still less than the Icarus mod did. So like slightly
fine.
less.
I'd be cool with
Do you
that.
think that's an okay trade-off? Like you're not getting as much inner accuracy as Icarus would once give you, but you're getting more of it across the board. Without
I'd like to
needing
see a
mod.
major trade-off. I'd like to see it move to armor, but have a trade-off of like removes your radar, but gives you good inner accuracy. So you can even use it with exotics like
Oh,
Hawk
that's
Moon.
an interesting idea.
what should we
Move
do?
it
We
to
just
armor.
make it a hunter exotic so they have to finally take off stompies. How about that? You make
Hey,
it
that
a,
too, yeah. I also want that, like, when you jump too high and hit the ground, it shakes your screen, your gun's looking at the floor. I'd like to have some way to get rid of that too.
I mean, yeah, you could also make it, just an armor mod that costs like an absurdly high amount. Because
It
like
costs
we know it's a
12.
strong.
You
Right.
can't actually
See
equip
if you
it
catch
on
my
your
drift
thing, but
here.
it's
Can't
there.
actually put it on.
I don't
Like-
think all 3 players on your team need Icarus, because when you're team shotting and like about to peek somebody, like on Javelin 4, this happened a lot around the blue area of the map near Rockwall and whatnot, where they would post up in a rift or something, and we'd say, all right, let's just delete this dude. Let's all 3 fly around the corner. If everybody goes on the ground, you're going to shoot each other in the back. Somebody has to take the air shot, and that's where I find Icarus is valuable. So I'd give up a lot to do that, but I don't think all 3 players on your team need to.
That's fair. Cool guy, you had something there a minute ago?
My issue, I mean, really, it's going to mix and match. It has to mix and match. I mean, like I said, let's take the Adept targeting perk. -10, or +10 target acquisition, -20 to stability. Perfect for the sniper rifle, right? So I'm thinking, as a player, this is essentially, it's kind of like we're adding Hidden Hand to the gun, right? It's kind of like an exclusive Adept version. We got Hidden Hand. But it comes with the penalty. I'm like, okay, if it's giving +10 target acquisition, essentially, I'm just going to put that on my helmet. I'm going to put an Icarus on the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my kind of issue. And I think what caught a lot of players off guard are the negatives. It's like, well, what you're giving and what you're taking away compared to what we can also just kind of add to the build. And hand cannon targeting or whatever targeting, it's one with the artifact right now. I mean, how high do you really need to go sacrificing something like an Icarus? You know what I'm saying? That's my issue with it.
I think the Icarus sacrifice is like a big one, no doubt. I personally like the trade-offs of those mods, though. Icarus aside, right? In this ideal world where Icarus is not the dominant mod, and whatever solution there is there. I like the trade-offs personally. I think that Destiny 2 has gone in this direction where you just get way too much for free. Like our mods, even on our helmet and our chest piece and armor, are now enhanced level at the normal cost they were before, essentially. And I feel like we're just going on this trend that's just like give more for free, and then every time you give something more and more significant for free, the decision making becomes less and less and less, and it's to the point where just you play the game enough and you put enough time in, so just slap everything on, pretty much, right? So that's why I like those trade-offs. I think they're really creative. I think that something like the Adept targeting adjuster is really interesting because sure, it gives you a lot of aim assist, makes the aim assist cone a lot wider, but for anyone that pays attention to all the cone talk, stability is responsible for how much your aim assist cone shrinks and diminishes as you fire. Like the decay, yeah, exactly, that's the word. So that's such an interesting trade-off because you're technically getting more, but in some ways you're getting less.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. Like I like these trade-offs. I like trade-offs in the builds.
It's always the option to add, I saw a lot of people like it should have a second mod. Now I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I guess it could.
It should
work.
have a second mod on the weapon, meaning you should be able to get the Adept, any Adept thing maybe
I mean,
for
it
free,
is a
and
limited
then
loot
pair
pool of
that
weapons,
together.
so they could do that.
I mean, that would be a way better motivating factor than just having Adept mods in the pool.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, I
Something to
agree.
think
I agree, but like, I'm already reading like the forum comments. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
it's so weird because
like
they
wow,
they're
Bungie
kinda
catering
gatekeepers, dude.
to the top 1% of PvP players. The
Yeah,
rich
that's not
get
true.
richer, and
Out
the
of-
poor get poorer.
Out of everybody who played Trials, it was like 20% of accounts went flawless. Over the week.
Really?
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah, it's not as low as people make it seem. Now, granted, it's
That
also
is
because
much higher than I don't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, that's much higher than I would have
I don't
put
believe you.
and I would have put a
all
bet
right,
on.
let me go find the numbers.
Is that
All right.
is that like a? Oh man, I feel like the trials population is just getting lower.
Well, I
and
wanted
lower
to
as
add
we-
something to maybe like the trials reward restructuring. I definitely agree there
Sure.
should be more at the front end, but I also think there should be more on the past flawless. Like you already have a maxed card. I'd like to see a bounty or something on the weekend say 100 wins past flawless combined equals something deterministic. What that'll do is it'll get those hyper sweat teams out of the normal population and into their own mini tournament where they're fighting for good RNG. at least better
I
than
like that.
doing 10 different cards.
That's interesting.
I like that.
That is an interesting idea, Cammy.
And like, it's weird because nobody really wants to have this conversation. Like, I love having these conversations with you guys because we talk about it level-headed. But like, these are discussions that need to be had, right? Because some things are okay. Like, I'm pretty sure you're listening. Like, no, you guys are way off on that. But it is worth discussing. Or maybe you haven't
I
thought
agree.
of something like, yeah, that could work. It's to make the game better, man.
Interesting thoughts all around.
Yeah, man. So this is according to Trials report, which Destiny Trials report. Maybe their numbers are like way skewed.
Sure.
But they showed this most recent week that there were 205,000 unique players that logged on, and almost 50,000 flawless players. So, yeah. Maybe Trials report.
hopefully
The
a lot of
way I
recovery
probably don't
though.
believe that is because I'm stuck over here in PC land. It's probably every console and platform.
So, Steam was 73,000 unique players and 17,700 flawless players. And that's not
Okay, that's still pretty
characters.
close.
So flawless characters is higher than that, obviously, but it's just players.
Right,
So,
right. I would really like to compare that with Trials numbers. I don't know, like, I don't know. At some point, I would love to see a graph of Trials population by week for, I don't know, a much longer period of time to gauge the overall player population.
So even back in October, prior to this season, right?
Sure.
It was 101,000 players and 19,000 went flawless. So
101,000 total, and now we're up to 200 something.
yeah, so that was like one of the last weeks of the previous season before they took it away, when it wasn't, Trials
Interesting.
wasn't at its most popular. So, I could be reading Destiny Trials reports wrong. If anybody is familiar with the system that they're using to call those numbers, then please let me know. But I don't really see any way other than that to read what they're displaying. So
That's fair.
Remember, recovs are a thing though, and I want to say that they're very, very popular right now.
outside of cheaters, I think recovs are the biggest detriment to Trials that is caused by the gamers themselves and not by the actual playlist that Bungie built. So
For sure.
We are flying very close to the sun right now.
dude, the sweaty
are.
anime pics have already
Special
gotten
guest
so
True
upset at me.
Vanguard on the phone trying to tell us why
Yeah, I
this
have a
topic
sweaty
is a
anime
bad
pic.
idea.
I posted a clip of me using Shadow Dive and Bastion today, so it's only a matter of
I
time
did
until
see
that gets
that,
released
yeah.
in some Discord somewhere, and a bunch of high schoolers basically come to yell at me about how I'm a horrible person.
Here, let me go stealth mode.
Oh,
Yeah.
good God. Cammy doesn't want this getting clipped. Yeah, that's a whole other kettle of fish. I'm sure we could, if we wanted to, we could dive
We have to
deeper
be
into
very
that.
brave.
We would have to be very brave to dive into that at another time. But we started late. We must move on. If you have a certain way that you feel about Adept Weapons.
Oh, you're going all ooh here. You're
Adept
blending in.
Weapons, please hit us up on Twitter. Ooh. No, we really would love to hear from you. Please hit us up on Twitter. Tell us what you feel about the overall Trials experience in Season 12 and Adept Weapons. Ooh. Try to put less W's into my words. Let's move on to topic number 2, which we've kind of touched on a little bit. I don't know if you boys have the outline of tonight's episode in front of you. Gave it a real clickbaity title there. Topic number 2. Is Stasis overpowered?
Let me get the thumbnail face.
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta get a red
Yeah,
arrow.
you get like the Macaulay Culkin face and then like a red arrow and classic.
I
but
think
yeah.
Stasis is strong.
Thank
Very
you
strong.
for taking us out of that thumbnail meme there, Mercules.
Yeah.
Keep going though. How
I think
how
Stasis
strong?
is, to use an ironic adjective, I think Stasis is very hot. I think it came in super hot. I wouldn't go so far as to say that it is just blatantly overpowered. When I think of things that are overpowered, I think of things that are just like flat out broken. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when ArcWeb first came back with the pulse grenades, where if there was 2 people next to each other, it would chain back and forth. And if there was any more than 2 people, it would just one hit everyone. Like, that's something that I consider like
remember
overpowered,
that.
where it's like, holy crap. But, what I look at is Top Tree Dawn has been long and away considered like the pinnacle, or one of the pinnacle subclasses to use.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Thank you. For
I
That
think
and
that-
spectral blades.
All the and spectral blades.
And-
You know, I think that all the stasis subclasses came in like at that strength, and I think that put a lot of people off because they're used to
Sure.
having like just these couple things that are up here, and now you've got a bunch more stuff that's up there. But I don't think that they're like head and shoulders above Top Tree Dawn. I think they're as good as it. And so, I mean, my
Okay.
standpoint on it is it could use maybe some tuning, but
Yes.
when you say OP, I think nerfs, and I don't
Let's-
want to see nerfs.
We're gonna get to the topic of nerf versus tune shortly. But question specifically that I wanted to ask you, Merc, because I mean we all know Bungie, and we're all analytical dudes, but you know Merc loving the spreadsheets and the graphs, maybe a little bit more than the average person on this show. What are the two things that make anything, quote, overpowered? Like, one, how deadly and efficient it is, or just how deadly it is, and then two is like, how easy is it to execute whatever it is you're trying to pull off? So if you
Yeah.
had like a weapon, like a perfect example would be the original D1 Vex Mythoclast, which had like, what was it, time to kill of like 0.4 in the head and like 0.45 in the body. It was just a full, and like you didn't have to hit a headshot with like a crazy zoomed in scope. It was like a full auto, and it's like easy. So you put those two factors together, how efficient it is on paper and how easy it is to use. That translates to overpowered. Now, if Bungie were to put out like a graph tomorrow, is there like a point on the graph which would, in theory, show they show every team that went flawless in trials and what subclass they used? If the data was overwhelmingly showing that the flawless players were all running stasis
Hunter?
classes, or like Revenant Hunter, or like a stasis team, would that be like really strong ground for being like, okay, let's talk nerf?
No.
I think after a period of time, perhaps, if it remains that way for an extended period of time, right? Like if you go for 8 weeks of trials and 70% of all teams that go flawless are 2 or more Revenant Hunters, well then yeah, you're gonna have to look at that, right?
Sure.
But if it comes down to it and it's like 40% of teams that go flawless contain 1 or more Revenant Hunters, well then you say, okay, well how many of those teams contain a Top Tree Dawn? And if it's like 35%, well then really, like, are you going to pull the trigger and cut down Revenant Hunter when Top Tree Dawn is showing just a tiny bit less efficiency, right? Like it's the same thing as it is with weapons. What is the absolute skill ceiling for this? How is this the best that it can be played? And then how many people are playing it to that level? If a majority of players are playing a gun as well as it can be used, or a subclass as well as it can be used, and that subclass is the best thing in the game, then yeah, it's too hard. But this is what I was trying to say earlier on Twitter. Like, people complain about Shadow Dive a lot, and a lot of the people I see complaining about it are playing a lot of 7th game trials and a lot of high level comp, and they're playing against other people who are very, very good. When I go into Iron Banner and I go into Control, I don't see people wiping the floor with other people with Shadow Dive. I get killed by Shadow Dive like once every handful of games. I posted a clip today of a kid whiffing a Shadow Dive on me, which I've been told on Twitter is impossible to do. Apparently,
really
Shadow Dive
funny.
is so easy that you can't miss, right? Well, the fact of the matter is there's a ton of players out there who don't actually know how to use Shadow Dive well, and they suck at it, right?
That is true. Cammy was mentioning earlier how people are so committed to the fact that it can be used insanely powerfully that that's all they'll try to do to you. And
it's one
if
of the
they
easiest
have nothing
abilities to
else in
bait.
their
Flat out one
bag.
of the easiest abilities to bait in the game. You can basically, it's like you gave all hunters shoulder charge is basically what it does, and hunters aren't used to having like a one-hit kill ability that's like that. So it's just like it's like they developed Titan Brain, like that little tiny peanut brain. It's like must Shadow Dive, Shadow Dive. Like that's all they do.
And you brought up Top Tree Dawn. When I play Top Tree Dawn, I never get Shadow Dive, even best team in the world, whatever. It's because I'm floating off map. Like, have fun.
So,
Go on, cool.
I mean, earlier, we brought up that arc web, dude. I mean, does the arc web can it literally take out any super in the game with an ability?
I really wanted to talk about that. I'm so glad you brought that up.
The breakdown is fissures. Like let's break this out. We have 3 things going on with the Shadow Dive combination, and honestly, the Hunter Revenant does have the best kit of stasis. It does. Period. It's got slow. It's got the shatter dive. It's got the range slow. It's got a lot within its kit. It's got dodging reloads on all of it. Compared to, let's say, the Titan that needs to be grounded. Yeah, they can slide, but it's not instantaneous as that Hunter. So Fissures is making that damage really high and expand. The shatter dive itself, once it hits the ground, there's like a little pool around the Hunter. It's like that's the distance that it will dive, that it will shatter dive. You put both those together, it's a little mini nuke going off in that area, and it's just so weird that with a passive 50-second cooldown, you can literally take out any super in the game with a grenade. Like, that's really
Not
crazy to
Behemoth.
me. It'll take out Behemoth.
It's I don't know that you can.
No,
Behemoth
it
has
doesn't.
crazy high damage resistance.
Yeah, it
I've
doesn't.
direct hit Behemoths and haven't been able to kill
They
them.
have very
Okay,
high damage resistance.
okay.
It does not.
But
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
okay, you
One
can take
super
out
out of the 16
98,
subs.
right?
I'm so
yeah.
sorry.
They have the,
But that's wild, man. Like, I've been in Weapons of Light, and they'll sneak in there, and they can do it, and it'll take you out. That's really, because if you think about it, if that ever gets touched, I think that the Titan kit really starts coming into play. You'll see a lot of Titans, because the Titan has a really great kit too. It has a very high skill ceiling with its movement, especially with using that melee to either yeet people off the map or use it for movement itself. It's got a really good kit, but it's just so dominant, especially with a Frosty 12-second cooldown, 13-second cooldown, to keep doing it over and over, and it takes out a lot of things very quickly. So what they could do is if it's Fissures. Fissures is really it, because if you nerf Shatter Dive, that will really matter, because it goes hand in hand with the grenade cooldown. It's yin and yang.
Can we just quickly? I just have to put this out there. It's driving me crazy. There was a video I really wanted to watch on this topic, because I was like, oh, it's the homie. It's Drew. He's putting a video out there about this topic. I'm sure he did a crap load of research. He's got the single tear rolling down his cheek, and I was really looking forward to watching it. And then by the time I went around to watch it, apparently the
people
debate.
are very angry right now.
Yeah, this is a really
And this,
really hot debate topic in the D2 community. People are super tight about Shatter Dive, and look, I get it. It's very. I feel like it's easy to do. I mean, as Cammy's mentioning, yeah, players are getting smarter about baiting it out. It's not like a super one-trick pony. The meta is continuing to develop and expand, and players will learn to react and anticipate. If I see someone on the radar coming right at me, I'm like, okay, I know what you're doing. You know what I mean? But but that being said, I can still go into a game and do very dumb plays where I'm like, okay, like if you execute it perfectly with like really good knowledge, there's very little they can do to get out of it, even like a seasoned player. But Drew, is there any numerical data that you like to share about the relationship of Shatter Dive and Fissures and stuff like that? I want to hear from you, because I didn't get to hear from you that one time.
yeah, so a lot of people, I told a lot of people I'm probably going to post it to Crucible Playbook. I will probably not upload a video like that for
That's a good idea.
a while again.
That's a good idea.
But I'll post the numbers out there and we'll talk about it now. Essentially, the way that Fissures works is it not only gives you a damage radius increase. So normally the maximum radius, from what I could tell, was 6 meters without Fissures of the Glacier grenades for a single crystal. That boosted to 10 meters, which is a
Are you talking
significant
about
buff.
the Shatter Dive hitting the ground, or the Glacier Nade crystal?
The Glacier
being...
Nade detonation.
Okay, from
That
what was it?
explosion.
From 4
6
to...
meters to 10 meters.
That's pretty big.
Yep. Pretty
No,
big.
that's massive.
10 meters is farther away than like a lot than any one hit from a pellet spread shotgun, right?
Because
Yeah,
that effectively changes where your dive ignites it.
Sure.
Which Drew is
So,
probably about to
yeah,
mention.
and I actually got the numbers for that, Cam. So the other thing about it is that it also gives bonus damage. It's not just radius. It is, each crystal individually is dealing more damage. Now there's a weird way that it works where it's like, if you're within 7 meters, you get like, it gives you double damage ticks. So it's like the normal damage tick or something akin to the normal one, and then an additional bit of damage. And then that's only within 7 meters. But then outside of 7 meters, you're usually only hitting for 25 damage. So like it increases the radius, but like the damage works really weirdly. So like 7 meters onwards is usually hitting like 25 or so, 25, 30-ish.
25 per crystal broken?
Per crystal, yes. There's
Okay.
5 crystals
Like
total.
fissure fall
That
off.
is a single crystal.
Fissure fall.
Yeah, it's like your fall off, yeah.
So ideally, in a perfect world, you're trying to, of course, get the crystal to be as close to the dude that you're trying to ruin as possible.
Yep. So what I found was that within 5 meters, which like 5 to 6 meters, which would be the normal maximum radius of a single crystal, without fissures, you're still able to get enough damage from what I could calculate that allows you to get a kill with only 2 crystals. So if one target is within 2 of your crystals within 5 meters, you're going to kill them, because it's those 2 crystals damage plus the damage of the inherent damage of Shatter Dive. So the Shatter Dive does 50 on its
50.
own, and then I forget the numbers off the top of my head, but it totals a kill. So that is like, if we think of that in the context of shotguns, where like we have to hit a certain amount of pellets to kill, that's like mega consistent. 2 out of 5 is like not a whole lot to ask for. And you have to think that, like, let's say you're not within that 5 meters, you're gonna be within, like, the other crystals are gonna be within 7 meters or even 10 meters. So it's like that 5 all adds up. So that's what makes it that crazy mega consistent. And on top of that, when we're talking about killing supers, personally, I think that sometimes I kill supers without fissures, but I know with fissures, I will confidently go up to a roaming super and just put it down and like rain hell and know I'm gonna get the kill. And a lot of that, again, is because of the increased damage, right? It's just more consistency in nearly every way you'd want it to. Radius, damage, and to me, that pushes it over the edge. I was saying this last episode, not to go way off the rails here, but I really do believe, and I think a lot of people got rather upset at me for saying this, but I do believe that when I am using fissures, I know I can make stupid plays. I know I can fly in and rush in and throw a nade down and kill the whole team. Whereas without fissures, I think there's a lot more risk. I think it doesn't allow for that much foolishness because of the radius of the nade that you can usually get out of that. It's pretty well telegraphed when you're, like you were saying earlier, when you're running at them. You know, I think it's a lot more readable. Cam, you mentioned extending the range, so there's a number for that. You can break someone's shields consistently 15 meters away from them, because the Shatter Dive inherently has a radius of 8.9 meters, give or take, and then the crystal's 10 meters or so. So to deal enough damage to break their shields with a row of crystals, like a 5, which is a standard nade, you can be, from what I could tell, about 15 meters away from them. When we think of the numbers like that, yeah, it's only breaking shields, but that just gives you an idea of like where you can deal even significant damage from, barely even being close to the crystals. So for me personally, it's obvious to me that fissures is the thing that pushes it, you know, over the edge.
The TLDR being that, even though I would imagine the hot take on Twitter is that Shatter Dive OP, nerf Shatter Dive. It's actually Shatter Dive's relationship with the Whisper of Fissures, which is really kind of dialing it up to 11, right?
And yeah, and I mentioned as well in that video, I said that I think Shatter Dive itself, yes, I agree, it needs to lose something. I dislike that it gives you inherent damage. I don't think it should give you any damage, and I personally think that while it's effective as a movement option, I do think that would like keep it as a movement option or detonating crystals. Like the fact that you can do a shoddy fight, like we're in the air together, we shotgun each other, I can dip right to the ground, which is strong as is. A lot of people mentioned the damage resistance. That damage resistance I talked about in the video is at the height of the jump while the camera shifts, right? Where it's like kind of like initiating it and then shift. It is not following you all the way down. That would really be absurd. Whether you can justify that or not is not up to me. You can make your own opinions. But my point is the fact that in a shotgun fight, you can get that damage resistance, which may or may not save you, and then hit the ground. But on top of it all, you're cleaning up your kill. Like you didn't one-shot them, you're cleaning up your kill. I think that's a little crazy. And I think taking away that inherent damage of Shatter Dive would also hit the consistency of Shatter Dive, because you're not getting that plus 50 on top of your crystals exploding, which is what the Titan has with its slide, right? It doesn't do any additional inherent damage. So
sure,
that's my rant on that.
That was really good.
That was well done.
I
appreciate
really
that
enjoyed
rant,
that, Drew.
It had
That's what I
math.
did.
It had
Wish the
everything.
video had stayed up. I know why
Yeah.
I didn't, but I wish
Yeah,
I had. 'Cause
Like,
that's some
people-
good
I might
info.
maybe I'll re-upload at some point.
That
But
would,
yeah,
that would
people
clear up
people are
a
very
lot of
angry right now.
misconceptions. Dude, people
I
are
love to know what I'm dealing with. So I mean, I know there's a big portion of the community that appreciates videos like that. Because when
Sure,
I hear
yeah.
that kind of info, I start, like crunching the numbers and like thinking about how it affects actual Trials games. And what that sounds like to me is control jump towards somebody, one headshot of a 120, and there is no movement ability in the game that gets them out of that shield break cleanup kill. They can't
And,
do it.
and,
It's not
and look,
fast
man,
enough.
we
So-
all.
I mean, I don't want to take
Oh,
too
go
much
on,
time
go
on
on,
it, but
Merc.
like
That's
people,
fine, yeah.
What I find is just like it was very weird. I think a lot of people just like personally, my experience of it was that it felt like just don't want to listen at this point. They're just very frustrated. They're very angry, and it was a place to put it out. So as much as I'm glad to present the information, and while I do believe Shadow Dive, yes, is a strong ability, and yes, needs to lose something, and Fissures, yes, needs to be adjusted, I don't think it's personally as overpowered without Fissures, and if it didn't have that inherent damage. Like I think it's very strong. Top tree Dawnblade strong.
That's fair.
I mean, I love that you put that information out there. First off, I'm glad that you got the damage resistance thing out there so that people could hear that, because the amount of misinformation that's being spread around about the damage resistance stuff is really, really crazy. People are saying that it has, 60% damage resistance all the way through the entire thing, and after you're on the ground, and it's like, well, now, like that's not the case. So I'm glad you got that out there. My concern is that we see a Warlock melee treatment where they tune too much of it at once. Say they take Fissures away, which even as someone who uses Shadow Dive, I'm also of the opinion that Fissures is what makes a difference. Because I tried Shadow Dive before I had Fissures unlocked, and I used it, and I thought, oh, that's neat, right? Like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but like, I'm not going to base my play style around it, right? As soon as I got Fissures, it was like, oh boy, here we go. So I understand that Fissures is the thing that makes it a difference maker, right? If you take away Fissures, you are basically almost immediately, I feel like, going to lose the Hunter Revenants that have specced into that, and you're immediately going to flip to we lose all Shadow Dive Revenants and we go straight into Duskfield Slowdown Revenants, which is like, this is where you have to start looking a couple layers deep.
Here
right?
we go.
Like, you guys think Shadow Dive's annoying? Wait till you start experiencing Duskfield spam with Revenants that have ultra slow and everything like that. Like,
Oh, dude, I played first weekend of Trials back. I hopped on PlayStation 4, lol. Don't have my 5 yet. And it was goddamn Duskfield City, bro.
Crimson Field, dude.
Yeah.
Just left and right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's its own thing, which is like you always have the tier list that the community is currently working on, at all times. Where it's like, if the best thing gets taken away, okay, well, what's the next best thing? And you'll just go right down the line. It's the same thing in fighting games. It's a never-ending thing of constant meta abuse.
You
But,
mentioned tier list, and this can almost be next week's episode or whatever,
Sure.
but I've been noticing there is a lot of counterplay with the light subclasses against Stasis. Some interesting stuff that maybe you
Really?
wouldn't initially think about. If the meta right now is S tier Revenant Hunter, then what counters it? There are two things. It's a bubble, so they use their super, they freeze you, use the bubble to cancel the freeze, and then if the tornado hits the bubble, it doesn't track you. It just goes off into
That
the
is true.
distance.
Yeah.
The second thing is the Middle Tree Arc Strider.
Yeah.
The whirlwind of the reflect.
can-
You can go into their tornado and through the power of anime, reverse the trajectory of a tornado and
It is
send it
literally
back at
true.
them. It becomes
Yeah,
your tornado.
You can take control of the tornado, which is absurd.
So it changes subclasses that I initially wrote off. I didn't think Bubble was that good in Trials because a lot of people ran Missile Titan and that would just cancel it outright. Or something else that just trucks the Bubble. But now that everyone's running Revenant, Bubble is suddenly a pick again.
Right.
So I find that kind of interesting. A rock, paper, scissors at the tier list. Revenant's clearly an S, but now Bubble
sure.
moves up because it's a potential counter to the S.
We could definitely have a talk next time about what we think we could do to bring to the table to counter the ice plays. But good talk on Shatter Dive all around. I appreciate the info, Drew, and the insight from everybody.
It is super fun to do. Shatter Dive.
Yeah, it really is, man. Although
Fun
I'm
to do.
if you were to take my thoughts on Shatter Dive, condense them into a nutshell, currently vibing on what Cool Guy mentioned earlier, is that it's like, yeah, look, it's fun. I love doing it, probably because I'm a bad person, but like it's a little too much, right? Like the fact that it can do so much. Like think about early trials when it was like someone would say something like, "Oh, should I be a a Sentinel Titan?" And you're like, "Yes, because that way we have a defensive option to help counter a super. Like the super comes at you, oh, I have my suppressor nade, and like you have to time it just right to get them like in the little explosion, and then you get, oh, you team shot him there, he's out of the super."
Or
But
you bubble the zone.
yeah, bubble the zone. But with like the glacier nade, someone's coming at me with a roaming super, I can just lay the glacier nade down. I'm like, okay, great. Now I have like, if you want to come at me, you got like 10 seconds, bro. I'm just gonna wait here. Like, just come at me, and then you can just do so much damage in one explosion. It's like it. I do feel like it brings a lot to the table. I also worry that if they hit it too hard, it will go. It's Bungie, right? We know they love to overcorrect. Remember Nova Warp? Like, Nova Warp was hot, and then they were like, "What if we fixed these 4 things about Nova Warp?" I'm sure they will do that, but in my opinion, it should be looked at in some way, probably leaning more towards the Fisher side. Any final thoughts on Shatterdive?
Yes.
Okay, Merc, come on.
Much to the joy of Behemoth Titans, it almost certainly is going to get nerfed into the ground, and it's going to vanish almost overnight.
Probably, yeah.
Behemoth Titans will be super pleased with that, because then, just like everybody was playing Warlocks day one, then everybody's playing Revenants, then everybody will go to Titans, and the circle will complete itself.
They're going to play on Titan, they're going to sit in the back of the map with max intellect. It's going to be real fun.
So, secondarily, the whole issue about how much damage it does to supers speaks to a wider issue to me, which is right now we have roaming supers out the wazoo, and they have insane damage resistance values. And to me, the bigger problem is not so much that Shatterdive can kill a roaming super, it's that it's one of the only things that can kill a roaming super.
Yes.
You've got Shatterdive, Snipes, and Bastion, and maybe Arbalest. And outside of that, you're pretty much shit out of luck if a roaming super really wants to attack you and you don't have a team shot ready or something like a suppressor grenade, right? Roaming supers are the scourge of the current sandbox right now. And think back on D1. We had a minority of roaming supers and a majority of one-off burner super be done with it, right? Now it's the other way around. One-off supers are the minority. Everybody's got a roaming super, got multiple ones in the subclass. They all have crazy damage resistance values. They all last for 30 seconds or longer. They all have the capability to kill 4 to 5 players. It's insane how much everything super-wise has power crept forward, whereas weapons and abilities have all power crept backwards. If you were to actually take Revenant and drop it into D1's final sandbox, it would not be overpowered. It wouldn't even be a question if it was overpowered or not. It would fit right in and would probably considerably be weaker than some of the other subclasses that we have, right? But that's because primary weapons were killing so much easier, so much more quickly. Special weapons were more lethal. Shutdown supers were more of a thing, right? But now you've got weaker primary weapons, weaker special weapons, weaker grenades, weaker melees, really strong supers, right? Yeah. And there's this like super strange dichotomy of like, why is this the direction that we've gone, where supers are now multiple free kills and we have almost nothing that can stop them that's not another super? People ask me, why do you play Bastion? Why do you play Shatterdive? Because I don't care about roaming supers anymore. Because I've got 2 tools in my sandbox that if a roaming super comes at me, congrats, bro, you're getting shut down. Like, that's what makes it so much fun to me. And it's going to suck because they are going to nerf Fishers. And Shatterdive is not going to be able to kill supers anymore. And then it's just going to be Bastion, and the Sweats are going to get their way, and they're going to get that nerf too. And then we're going to have just aggressive snipers. Right? And it's like, this is the creep that we go, why is everything in this game weak except for roaming supers, which are the least skilled thing in the sandbox to use? Supers are like a free win button. That thing grinds my gears more than anything else in the game right now, is how powerful.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Are. That is my control experience in a nutshell. I'll just be playing normally. I'll change my tag. I'll borrow an account even. And as I start doing good, I just get the red exclamation point of every person on the enemy team. I'm supering that guy. And what do? I have to use Bastion, suppressor nades, aggressive snipe, etc. to counter 6 people wanting to individually super me with their unbeatable roamer.
Yeah. Normal fusions can't do it. Adaptive snipers can't do it. Shotguns can't do it. Like, grenades can't do it on its own. What are you supposed to do? Like, if a roaming super is really coming to get you, is it fun to just say, oh, there's a behemoth running at me? What's my counter for behemoth? Literally, float up in the air. Like, run away, float up in the air. Like, that's my counter for a behemoth. That, to me, is not a particularly fun way to play. But if I use Shatter Dive and Bastion, I might actually have a chance. So that's why I kind of die on this hill of like, don't take these things down a notch. Like, leave these things where they are. Bring more stuff up to meet those things. Because right now, every time you pull those things away, it's just one more tool out of the sandbox to counter what, in my opinion, is the worst thing about the sandbox, which is the OP roaming supers.
So you're kind of talking about, let's not lower the ceiling, let's raise the floor a little bit. In a very bastardized summary.
Think how high the floor was. The skill ceiling was in the same place in D1, right? How fast did 140 RPM hand cannons kill? Same exact TTK in D1, right? But they were easier, 1 crit 2 bodies.
Right.
That to me is better for the sandbox in general, because the good players still get to achieve their same optimal TTK, right? But the bad players who right now, a 3 crit headshot with a hand cannon is way out of the picture. It's never going to happen, right? In D1, they might be able to hit it. They had something that was more achievable for them. Skill ceiling stayed in the same place, exactly where it is. And the problem we had with D1 early on was that the skill ceiling was not up there, right? Like the skill ceiling was 1.20 seconds was the optimal TTK, which is terrible and didn't feel good to anyone. So they brought the skill ceiling back to where it was in D1, but they've kept the skill floor pretty low. And so, you know, some people will say it's good to have that split. And in Valorant, sure, I'm sure it is glad. Or in CSGO, I'm sure it's glad, you know, to have that split. But in Destiny's not a comp shooter, man. It just isn't.
Merc, I need to tell you a story real quick on anecdote. You know what, cool guy, you hit him with it. I'm gonna hit Merc with an anecdote, but you first. You first.
No, I just want to say it's extremely delicate, because if they do nerf fissures, which, I mean, immediately that's what comes to your head, right? Like, fissures is actually really good if you're using like a cold snap. You freeze someone, like fissure still works on when you kill that frozen opponent, and it's not that large, you know, coming from one single target. As Drew was talking, if you have 5 crystals in each one, you only need 2 of them, but if each one is doing that much damage, like, that's kind of where the issue is coming from. Maybe they just kind of set it down. And also, like, that would destroy it for PvE, really. Like, fissures is super good at PvE. If you blanket a field and just start freezing everything, it puts in a lot of work. But it's delicate.
Merc, I love my fiance Anno very dearly, and we have great nights watching silly crap on Netflix and eating dinner. Good time. Very lighthearted evening. We'll play Fall Guys together. It's great. Nothing huge. And then you know, brush your teeth, get ready for bed. Good night. I love you. Turn off the light, and then we're just sitting there in the dark, and she'll be like, what's the meaning of life? Like, is there a God? Like just the most deep, profound questions. It's like, now? Like, turn the light off from bed. It's like, here we are, tail end of the podcast. Merc is this huge. Do you have anything left on Shatter Dive? Oh, I have one last thing. And it's huge.
Knowledge bomb.
We could talk for like hours on this topic. It's like, but good food for thought for sure. Would love to continue that at another time. A lot of things to take in there. The speed of the meta, the viability of roaming supers. Are they too much? All that good stuff. If you have any thoughts about any of that, please. Twitter uwu. We have
reduction mod on the chest piece.
Oh, good God.
That's what I want.
A heated vest, immune to ice, right? There you go. We have very little time for community questions, which means another classic episode of Firing Range. Let's see. Here's one from Wayne. What was the nicest surprise sandbox change this year that assured you all is not lost in 2020?
Can I just say the weapons?
Sure, yeah.
Snipers aside, I like where the weapon tuning direction is going. I was initially a little skeptical about reduction of TTK on hand cannons while leaving special weapons running rampant. But Stasis kind of put that little barrier of ice to make sure special weapons can't get in as easy. So it ended up being okay.
I'm going to say 120 RPM hand cannons going from like kind of a fun little thing to whip out if you get bored to like becoming one of my favorite like overall weapon types in PvP.
I love the 120 RPM hand cannon change.
Yeah.
Love the range increase. I love the
Love it.
RPM increase. Big fan of it all.
I like it too.
I'm gonna say Stasis. I think
There you
that I think the fact that it came in and it came in maybe hot, but that's the biggest change ever made to the sandbox, and it
It's a
completely
change.
altered the way the game is played. And the fact that it hasn't just, in my opinion, decimated the game to the point of nobody playing it anymore. To me, I think is a pretty big victory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's
and looking back in
go on.
D1 with the glitches and overpowered stuff that came out with those Night Stalker, Sunbreaker, etc., I don't think Stasis is that bad.
Could be a lot worse. I'm trying to go for the short questions. I really feel bad. You guys do a great job hitting us up on Twitter with all these incredible questions. We go down rabbit holes. Here's one from James Carey. What joke exotic right now would you like to see become the next hot thing if we get another sandbox update?
Cold Heart.
That would be
Cold
funny
Heart,
with
that would
Stasis.
be interesting.
Gotta go with the ions, dude. I'm sorry.
Hey, you might see Dustfield Aeon Warlocks or something.
Yeah, man.
Oh god.
The next big gun, joke exotic out of a quote unquote meme exotic, Malfeasance is my pick.
That wasn't a joke when I saw the Titan Overshield gauntlets. I was like, Malf is back in business.
Yeah. It's still a joke. It doesn't get the inherent accuracy bonus, and to me,
It
that's
needs
just like,
that Icarus, it really does.
Yeah, that would be a good answer.
We haven't seen the catalyst on that though, so there is hope.
That is true.
Okay, my pick is Skyburner's Oath. I was playing
was gonna
around.
say that.
We were trying to myth bust something in a private match. We were trying to see if sniper rifles had damage drop off, so we went to Widow's Court to find the longest distance. And we of course Darcy'd out. Darcy even wouldn't track this distance because it was too far. Darcy didn't work, and the sniper rifles did not have drop off. But I pulled out Skyburner's Oath just to see, like, if I aim this up in the air, will the bullet fall down and hit somebody? The answer is yes. So you can find these like CS:GO nade angles with Skyburners, and on Widow's Court, when you know people camp, you just tell all 3 people shoot now, just a couple bullets each, and it will hit somebody. I want to take someone out on Widow's Court like that so bad.
That is such a cammy play.
Or
dear
you know the
God.
zone at the end, just rain down fucking Skyburners, something like that.
That is so you. Like, oh, let's play. Don't no one push. Let's wait like 15
I'm
more.
gonna
They're
send
gonna
all my
camp the
teammates
cap
the
zone.
video.
They're gonna
I'll
camp the
be
cap
like,
zone.
This is how you line it up. This is the pixel you aim for in the skybox.
Stand
All right,
here,
now shoot.
everyone. 3,
They're
2,
doing
1,
it.
go, go, go. And you know what? We'll end with a nice question. Here's one from freaking Gompa. What is your New Year's resolution? Doesn't have to be Destiny related.
I don't even think I've
It's a
thought of
deep
this.
question, right? What was that, Drew?
I don't even think I've thought of this.
Dude, 2021 in like 2 days, buddy. You haven't
Dude,
thought
I just
about
talked
that?
a lot, but I'll go
I
real quick.
know.
Yeah.
I don't make
Damn.
resolutions because if I'm making a resolution, that's because something needs to change to make my life better. So I just make the change when it needs to happen. Doesn't matter if it's February, January, or November. If I need to be healthier, I'm going to be healthier. It's not January doesn't tell me to do that.
What a motivational response from Cammy. God
Look
damn.
at me, I'm Cammy, I'm perfect.
Life coach Cammy.
My beard grows an inch forever. No, I'm playing.
It's like an ant.
I haven't really thought about it either. This past year's just been so weird. I'm pretty sure for everybody listening, it's just been so weird, man.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna grab my bearings and go forward.
Yeah, one foot in front of the other for 2021. Let's not count our chickens before we hatch and start making any grand,
That is true.
grand resolutions. Let's just
yeah.
make sure we get through it.
I think for
That's-
me, one thing that's good that came out of this year was doing other things that I'm really really loving and really passionate about. So I this is not so much a resolution as much as I want to just keep that going and go even harder with that. You know, for me, music's a big thing, so I want to just keep doing more of that.
Good for you, man.
What if we
Yeah,
make
I see
a
that
firing
piano
range?
in the background.
Oh, I didn't notice that there. You a piano player?
Yeah. Yep, and violinist.
Ironically,
Really?
pretty
I
cracked
didn't
on the
know that.
keys.
He's correct. Heyo.
It's over.
We make
Um,
a firing range resolution to actually stick to our schedule and not just jump between
All
random
right,
leagues
let's
going
let's
forward.
not get crazy here, buddy. Come on.
Have we
What'd you
thought
say?
about-
One miracle at a time.
And I'm gonna put y'all on the spot. Have we thought about maybe trying to go weekly?
Oh, good lord!
I know,
Trying
yeah.
to do to me,
I
kid.
mean, yeah.
That's
How
a big
deep
commitment.
does the sandbox
It's a
go?
big commitment. Cool guy's like asking me to move in with him, bro. Like, what if I'm ready for that step? Nah,
I
those,
don't know.
those
Maybe
those
maybe
were
if the
quite
people
nice.
if the people demand it, we'll consider it.
If
But
they do.
I think they maybe get enough of us every other week at this point.
I like that we save our episode for when something critical happens that's worth talking about, and there's not
I
much
kinda
filler.
like that too. Yeah.
All
All
right.
killer, no
all right.
filler.
But I mean, if you want the filler episode, the filler arc, we can do that. Talk about
Like-
Skyburner's angles.
Filler episode. It's like the firing range anime episode. What is it?
Yeah.
It's like a classic filler anime.
It's
The-
like
the-
when we
the
lose
bathhouse
the
episode.
free ramen coupon on Naruto, and we spend the whole 30-minute episode looking for it.
It
just
is
to realize
literally
it was in
that.
our back pocket.
It's literally exactly
Oh
that.
my gosh.
And so we'll do that, and then we'll be like, and so in conclusion, Shatter Dive is pretty strong.
Roll
Next week's
credits.
episode's gonna be so. This is why you want to run double dynamo.
Exactly. What maps Dynamo's broken on? Spoiler, all of them.
That was a nice final question to end on. But we really do appreciate all of you. Thank you for hitting us up on Twitter with those questions. We know you put a lot of thought into them. I think in the future we'll probably have to do more question-heavy episodes where maybe we start with questions because we do go down some interesting rabbit holes there. But that'll be it for this episode of Firing Range. We appreciate all of you joining us. But before we end, we're going to go around the table and let you know where you can find each of us when we are not here. Cammy, where can the people at home find you?
YouTube.com/CammyCakes Gaming, Twitter.com/CammyCakesYT, and Twitch.tv/CammyCakes. Thank you, everyone.
Consistent. Cool guy, where can they find you?
YouTube or Twitter, and it's gonna be at Cool Guy Games. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Attaboy. Drew, what about you?
Twitch.tv/Drewskys, and then YouTube.com/Drewskys channel, Twitter.com/Drewskys channel. Yeah, Happy New Year's.
And one day Carnegie Hall. And Merc, where can the people find you?
You can find me on the Destiny Massive Breakdown podcast, wherever you guys listen to podcasts. You can find me on Twitter and Xbox at Mercules904. And have a Happy New Year's, everyone.
And I'm Fallout. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/FalloutPlays, twitch.tv/FalloutPlays, and on Twitter at FalloutPlays. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope 2021 is great for everybody. We appreciate you hanging and listening with us. Stay safe, be happy, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
All right,
Audacity
engine recording.
out. Yeah, but we still live on Twitch though.
Okay, so I got a good story with you. You brought up Carnegie Hall, and that one hit me like, freight train.
Oh no.
I remember in high school, this is my brother's
God.
younger class that I would like step in on every now and then. He and his friends were joking around in the music class, and the music teacher's like, "What are you boys doing messing around? How are you ever going to play in Carnegie Hall?" Like trying to bust their balls about
Right.
it. And one of the like Asian kids goes, "Oh, I already played at Carnegie Hall." And she's like, about to call him out on his shit. And he's like, No, check this out. He types it up on YouTube. And he was like, a 5-year-old kid piano genius
Holy shit.
playing
Oh
at
my
Carnegie
God.
Hall. And he's like,
So he's
"I
like, so
already
I'm
did
allowed
it."
to fuck around.
The teacher's like ghost white, like,
It's like, yeah, no big deal.
all right then. I guess you keep playing around.
Yeah, you keep fucking around
hilarious.
then. Anyone have a homie on Twitch live right now? We have one
Glow.
recommendation in the glow. I don't know who that is.
It's a really
we
good
know-
friend of mine. part of
He gives him a glowing
Good friend of
recommendation.
yours?
Mm,
I mean,
yeah.
friend of Drew's, friend of mine. I say we go for
Super
glow.
cool, dude.
Let's do it. And boom. Raid has been kicked off, and